Do you recall that President Trump gave notice that he was pulling the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord? Well, if Congress has its way, a new climate change bill will have the same effect on us as the Accord. And this time, it's bipartisan. We'll expose this and tell you how you can help stop it in this episode of Activate America, Getting Active to Throw Off Government Tyranny. The U.S. Senate is preparing a major climate change bill, which Democratic Senator Joe Manchin described as a down payment for more draconian climate change measures. This bill will almost certainly pave the way for the radical green agenda, infringe on state sovereignty, and tie the U.S. further into international agreements that it has not properly ratified. The American Energy Innovation Act, or S-2657, was introduced in late February by the two top senators on the Energy and Natural Resources Committee, Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski and Democratic Senator Joe Manchin. The proposed legislation is a package of more than 50 bills. The Hill described the 555-page-long bill as touching nearly every aspect of the energy industry. For several months, the bill was stalled in the Senate. Now, this was because the White House and Senate leadership blocked a proposed amendment by Senators John Kennedy and Tom Carper. And this was to reduce levels of a greenhouse gas called hydrofluorocarbon, specifically over a provision permitting states to enact stronger regulations than the federal government. Unable to resolve the dispute, the bill failed in a cloture vote in March. And of course, the onset of COVID-19 hysteria distracted Congress from pushing forward with the bill. However, on September 10th, the Senate reached a compromise on the Kennedy-Carper amendment. Under that compromise, state and local governments will be prevented from enacting stricter hydrofluorocarbon regulations for between 5 and 10 years. Rejoicing at the agreement, Senator Carper stated that we now have a clear path in Congress to enact and implement a nationwide phase-down of hydrofluorocarbons, among other things, helping our planet avoid 0.5 degrees Celsius in global warming. The bill has bipartisan support, meaning that its passage is almost assured. The Kennedy-Carper amendment is one of the many problems at the overall bill that make it a threat to individual freedom, as well as a slippery slope due to a radical environmentalist agenda. By preventing states from choosing their own regulatory policies, the bill infringes on state sovereignty and the 10th Amendment. In fact, Congress's regulation of hydrofluorocarbon in and of itself violates the Constitution, since nowhere does the Constitution give the federal government regulation authority. The infringement on state sovereignty is only one problem with the bill. This bill capitulates to the left on climate change and is a slippery slope to more radical measures. For example, the bill designates nearly $2 billion through fiscal year 2025 to promote carbon capture in coal and gas plants to combat climate change. Not only is this proposal nearly identical to President Obama's 2009 energy plan, but carbon capture promotes the scientifically unsound belief that there's something wrong with carbon dioxide, when in fact, CO2 is a necessary and beneficial compound for the Earth. And considering that CO2 emissions in the U.S. are falling faster than any other country, such a policy is really totally unnecessary. The bill also contains a backdoor measure to bring the U.S. into compliance with the 2016 Kigali Agreement, which was never ratified by the Senate to begin with. The agreement intends to reduce hydrofluorocarbon production and consumption in the name of preventing climate change. The binding international agreement, already ratified by over 100 countries, had been blocked by the Senate from ratification despite being negotiated and celebrated by the Obama administration. However, this new bipartisan bill would bring the U.S. into compliance anyway. Not only would this infringe on U.S. sovereignty and circumvent the constitutional method of ratifying treaties, but this de facto ratification, again, represents a surrender to the left's environmental agenda and would harm American consumers and the U.S. economy. The bill includes other provisions that would entangle the U.S. in international agreements. For example, the bill contains a provision requiring U.S. participation in several international organizations. On page 321, it states, "The Secretary of Energy shall carry out a program to develop bilateral collaboration initiatives with a variety of countries through maintaining existing multilateral cooperation commitments of the International Framework for Nuclear Energy Cooperation, the Generation 4 International Forum, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and any other international collaborative effort with respect to advanced nuclear reactor operations and safety." And then on page 104, the bill mentions, "The Secretary, in collaboration with key stakeholders, shall actively participate in efforts to harmonize global specifications and metrics for data center energy and water efficiency." These provisions might not be significant in and of themselves, but they do advance the globalist effort to incrementally integrate and entangle the U.S. into the fold of world government, which effectively siphons off American sovereignty. Finally, the bill expands the federal government's reach into the energy industry through subsidies, preferential treatment of certain industries, and through other means. In accordance with the 10th Amendment, the economy's energy sector is rightfully off limits to the federal government. The American Energy Innovation Act represents the Republican establishment's capitulation on the issue of climate change. The GOP, which opposed Barack Obama's environmentalist policies, now endorses many of those same policies and accepts the left-wing climate agenda. As we say, folks, no political party holds a monopoly on tyranny, and the leftist and deep state push for climate change is not about the environment. It is nothing more than an excuse to eliminate national sovereignty because of a fake global crisis that they say requires a global solution which will impose international socialism and a world government upon the planet. In fact, climate change is one of the primary means of the left and the deep state to advance global socialism. These developments threaten the Constitution and the liberties it protects. Republican politicians might believe that passing this proposed bill may prevent a more extreme measure like the AOC and Bernie Sanders-backed Green New Deal. However, the left will not abandon any of the ground that it gains in this debate, and the Republicans will only lose the argument by agreeing to make any movement on the issue. By allowing the debate to shift to the left, again, the GOP will enable the eventual enactment of Marxist policies like the Green New Deal. And to prevent this, our senators must reject S. 2657, the American Energy Innovation Act, and its unconstitutional and socialist policies. So please go to jbs.org and use our legislative alert to let your senators know they should vote no on S. 2657. Our system allows you to call, email, tweet, or create a 30-second video to send. Just look for federal legislative alerts under the Act Now menu. Direct links are in the video description. Be sure to ask others to do so as well. Then, follow up with personal visits to both of your senators' local offices to reiterate your stance. A great chapter activity is to assemble a schedule of visits to these offices over a series of several weeks, sending in only one person every few days, and then increasing this to several people to create plenty of local pressure that gets their attention in Washington. And if you need help implementing this, contact your local JBS coordinator. JBS.org offers a lookup tool in case you don't know your coordinator. With your help, we will stop this green tyranny in its tracks. Will you act today? Until next time, this is Bill Hahn for the John Birch Society saying stay active, everyone.